And now we are going to be introduced to a very cool idea called absolute value. What is the absolute value of a number? Well, the distance a number is from 0 is the absolute value of a number. And the symbol that we use for that are these two vertical lines. They almost look like lowercase l's. So I usually think of it as it's good, like you get the absolute value of something. It's ridiculous, but it's what I do because the absolute value is good. Anyway, two vertical lines like that. Now, what does absolute value mean? Well, the name itself kind of sounds like what it means. It's the value of something taken absolutely. Absolutely means in total, meaning we don't pay attention to the fact that a number is negative or positive. We look at it and say, how far are you from 0? How great of a value does this number take on? Whether it's to the left or right, whether it's a loss or a gain, whether it's up or down. So without any further ado, let's go over how to find the absolute value, and we'll look at it from a number line perspective. So when I see absolute value, I read that as the absolute value of 6. So if I'm evaluating that, I'm going to simplify it. So the absolute value bars, they are grouping symbols like parentheses, and they take on an action. So I read that as the absolute value of 6, and I look at that and I say, what is the distance that 6 is from 0? That's how I learn this, rather than just saying, well, absolute value turns all numbers positive except 0, it just keeps it. That's some way that is often taught. It's more than that. So what is the distance that 6 is from 0? Well, I've got a number line in my head, and we'll put 0 right here, and then 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 away from 0. So how far is 6 from 0? 6. So the absolute value of 6 is 6. And we look at its opposite, negative 6. So the absolute value of negative 6 is the same as saying, how far is negative 6 away from 0? Okay, well, we'll take another number line and we'll look at that. So here we are at 0, and then we go negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. So here we are at negative 6. How far is negative 6 away from 0? Well, it's not negative 6 away. Distance is never negative. Distance is just a total amount, always a positive number. So how far is negative 6 from 0? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, or 6 away from 0. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the idea of taking the absolute value is more than just saying, oh, when I take the absolute value of a negative number, it turns positive. Yeah, okay, that's what it looks like, but what you're actually doing is a little bit deeper than that. It's no more difficult, but a little deeper. It's the distance that a negative number is from 0 will always be positive, and that is why the negative turns positive. It's a big difference there, and understanding that at this level in our basics is going to help you down the road when you start doing equations with absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 80 is really saying, how far is negative 80 from 0? Well, negative 80 is on a number line, 80 to the left. Well, what would that mean if we're 80 to the left? Well, that means that we are 80 away. So the absolute value of negative 80 is positive 80. And I'll show that with an abbreviated number line here. So we put a 0 right there. Negative 80 would be to the left on our number line here. And this distance right here is 80 units from 0. So the absolute value is 80. Last but not least, what is the absolute value of 0? In other words, what is the distance that 0 is away from 0? So how far is 0 away from itself? It's 0. So that guy is going to be 0. So again, I'll remind you one more time, the absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. So when you see the absolute value sign, you're asking yourself the question, how far away is that number from 0? Absolute value is an action to be taken, and it's awesome. Now go rock some practice with it. Oh, I figured I'd sneak in a little bonus clip for you. A little challenge question here, right on the tail end of absolute value and what it is and how to take it. I'm giving you this challenge. It says, what two numbers have an absolute value of 14? This really gets down to the nitty-gritty of understanding what absolute value means. And remember, it is the distance a number is from 0. So really we're asking, what two numbers have a distance away from 0 of 14? Well, I know 14 is 14 away from 0, right? If you look at like I said, I'll call this an abbreviated number line. So you've got 0 right here in the middle, and then you got 14 is 14 away. So that's one of the answers. Well, what other number has an absolute value of 14? Again, another way of saying that is what other number is 14 away from 0? Well, 14 to the right is one answer. 14 to the left would be another answer. And so that would be negative 14. The negative symbolizes we're going to the left of 0, 14. And those are your two answers. Figured I'd sneak in a little challenge there for you. Hope you enjoyed it.